This segment brought to you by
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm Joe Lauer, and I'm with the University of Wisconsin. I'm a professor in corn agronomy for the state of Wisconsin, and we do research on agronomic decision making for corn farmers. This project that I'm going to talk about today, basically looking at the response of corn to variable rate. One of the real changes that have been going on with corn has been an increase in plant population since the 1980s. We've moved in Wisconsin and many of the Corn Belt states from a typical average of around 20 to 22,000 plants per acre to 30 to 32,000 plants per acre. And this has really been occurring over the last generation of farmers, the last 20 to 30 years. Along with that, so farmers are asking the question, what is the maximum yield? Where does the maximum yield occur, what plant population, and where is the economic optimum plant population that occurs? And then that follows then naturally into, if there are optimums out there, does that need to change as you move throughout a cornfield? In other words, should some parts of that field be planted at lower populations than another part of the field? So we took 3 fields in Wisconsin, and these fields were chosen because they had long field histories where we had yield maps on them. We broke those fields down into subfields and looked at the overall yield over a 13-year period using the yield maps, as well as looked at the standard deviation of the variance of those subfields. And then we classified those into high-yielding parts of the field with low variation. In other words, every year they're high-yielding, and low-yielding, low variation, where every year they're low-yielding. And then you got the in-between, where you've got, they could be either high or low, but they have a lot of variation associated with those. Within each subfield, then, we put out 4 plant populations, 22, 30, 38, and 46,000 plants to the acre, to be able to draw a line to identify where that optimum population was for that subfield. So we have 3 management zones, close to 30 different subfields, and our results were that the overall pattern, regardless of where we were, really didn't change all that much as far as the pattern. What changed was where that line crossed what we call the intercept on the graph. In other words, if it was high yielding, it was above the low yielding parts of the field, just exactly as what we thought would happen. So the point is that it's a very broad-shouldered response for corn plant population. And when you divide the field into these different management zones, it really didn't seem to matter all that much. Now, these fields had about 40 to 50 bushels difference in terms, the subfields had about 40 to 50 bushels difference in terms of their yield performance over the last 13 years, and about 40 bushels standard deviation, plus or minus 40 bushels around those means. So in that kind of a situation, we could pick up how they would respond, but the pattern was very similar. So this was rather discouraging because, again, one of the kind of tenets with variable rate technology is that we should be adjusting these plant populations as you go through the field, and we just couldn't pick that up. So then we asked the question, well, can we even predict the pattern out there in the field in terms of yield? And so for this, we took another 26 years of data, and we looked at the yield pattern within that field, and we figured that over 26 years, we would have the pattern figured out. In this field, there are treatments where we've got continuous corn for 30 plus years, conventional till, no-till for close to 30 years. And we wanted to see when those patterns evolve. So we had different cells, subfields in that field, and we wanted to see when was something significant. In other words, if you added years of yield maps to that subfield, when did we start to pick up differences among different parts or different subfields within the field when we're in a continuous corn, conventional till type of a system? Well, we could pick them up. Usually it took anywhere from 2 to, I believe it was about 12 years before we pick up a significant difference of just any pattern that would exist out there. And it depended upon the rotation as well as the tillage.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Lecompton. The name was splashed across newspapers throughout America and Europe. It was debated in the halls of Congress. Lecompton interprets its unique territorial history with 2 museums and other sites. Events throughout the year celebrate history and community.
The 160th anniversary of the Battle of Fort Titus, June 18th, 2 p.m. Reenactors welcome. Call 785-887-6148 for more information.
Spend the day in historic Lecompton, shopping, eating, savoring the rich history.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
AGam in Kansas, brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Okay, then the next question is, all right, if we know the pattern after 26 years, when does that pattern at the end show up? So in other words, working backward with the data, when does that pattern show up in the field? And there, when we did that, it took anywhere from 4 to 20 years for those patterns to kind of show up, depending on the tillage and cropping system. So the point is that in order to, you could find patterns, but it took a long time, probably 4 to 20 years before you can find these patterns to be able to put some agronomic practice out there that is predictive. And that's kind of the mixed message that I have in my presentation, is that with variable rate seeding, yeah, we can find high and low parts of the field, and they respond a little bit with different intercepts, but the pattern is still the same. The optimum plant population didn't change whether it was high or low yielding. And then the other thing is that these patterns take a long time to find within the field. And before you can even do any kind of prediction, you got to know the pattern. But when we talk about precision farming, you have to distinguish between whether you're talking about kind of a fancy record keeper with all kinds of technology, or you're talking about agronomy of farming. And what agronomy is the prediction of the treatments that you're going to put out there, the hybrid, the chemical, whatever you're going to put out there. That's really the agronomy of things. You're trying to predict what that treatment's going to do out there. And so before you can even do that, you need to know the natural weather patterns as well as field patterns within your field. And we're never going to get very good at the agronomy of precision farming until we can predict the weather. And we have to be able to predict the weather 3, 4, 5, 6 months before we make the decision to actually go out there and apply a lot of our decisions. If you tell me that we're going to have a dry year, I can adjust my agronomy to take into account that dry year, lower the plant population, plant a different hybrid that's more of a water optimized kind of a hybrid, lower my nitrogen rates. All those things will make you profitable, but you have to be able to tell me that, the weather that's going to happen. Another way to do that is with many years of yield maps, okay, because there you have the overall trend, if you will, for that field, and you can adjust things a little bit. But it really comes back a lot of times to the weather patterns that are predicted down the road. But so that before any of these variable rate technologies are going to be able to work, we have to understand that. And no one has been able to really predict the weather very well, and that really is the crux of the issue.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotating cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I want to do it. So we did it, and it worked. And I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now